what we have here, look at that. A little shaggy mane. It's a little dried already. Yeah, that weather right now. So this is a really cool mushroom. It's very unique. This conical head is not found often, and what we don't really see here, let's see, is that one already getting anywhere? Maybe here, up there. You see it turning black down here. So what's starting is it's liquefying, and the spores, when they are mature, they trigger liquefaction of the tissue. So this whole thing gonna get black and slimy, and the sliminess is moving from the bottom to the top. Supposedly you can trick the mushroom, and when you transport it this way, the spores won't mature as quick because they are conditioned to move upward.
Are those the ones they call Inky Caps?
So they are related to the Inky Caps. They used to be part of the Inky Caps, but DNA showed that there's 3 branches evolutionary that have this deliquescence. Tried to avoid it in the first part. Deliquescence, but they are not closely related. So it developed several times in the branch, but they all have these conical heads, interestingly, or most of them, and these shaggy manes, or the British name is the lawyer's wig, because when these shaggies are a little longer and more pronounced, it looks like, you know, these British judges. So that's a mushroom you often find along roads, pathways, in agricultural areas, in old industrial areas, and you got to be careful where you pick it if you want to eat it, because it concentrates heavy metals, and since it grows in a lot of places humans have unfortunately polluted, you shouldn't be eating that anymore.
But you can cook it and eat it though.
Yeah, it's a very tasty mushroom. Because it is so short-lived, it's not in the trade, because you just to get it from cultivation to, you know, you got to do it in the same day. So these guys would go right away into the frying pan. There's no point in letting them sit around unless you want some nice ink, or you could color your food. If you want a nice rich black color in your food, you just put the liquid spore mass in there. Like black pasta, some people playing with that, you know, it's all possible. So easy to recognize because of the conical head, the shaggies on the cap. It gotta have the shaggies. There is poisonous look-alike, the Inky Cap, the tipless bane, that is not poisonous by itself, but if you happen to drink alcohol within 3 days of eating the tipless bane, you get really sick, because your body's own enzymes that break down alcohol get neutralized, and you have it impacts you like antabuse, that drug that makes you not touch alcohol. But you'll survive it. So here I'm sitting basically in the middle of a natural compost pile. You see all these branches and buildup of biomass, and that's exactly the spot where these shaggy parasols are the happiest. So another shaggy mushroom, another edible shaggy mushroom, the shaggy parasol. If I would pick one here, lots of white mycelium on the base. The whole area is full of mycelium, and then when you scratch the guy, it turns into like a salmon orange color very quickly. Really important detail, because whenever we see a mushroom with a big fat stem base, a ring, the ring in this case was stuck to the cap. It should be properly here, and then white gills. This is very close to the deadly amanitas. And that color change makes a big difference. You won't find that in our deadly amanitas, and also it has scales on the cap. So amanitas would have little dots on there, not scales. So this is, we have 3 species out here. This is the gray Shaggy Parasol, Chlorophyllum Olivieri. It's introduction probably from Europe. The Italian name points to that somewhat. And before we had DNA to clearly tell the difference, it was a mess. So, but once we had DNA analysis of these Shaggy Parasols, then we could sort out the characteristics and we got a more or less clear picture. And so Olivieri is the smallest of the 3 and it is the grayest. The biggest is Chlorophyllum rhacodes, that is in real compost piles. It likes a lot of nutrients. And Bruneum, the brown Shaggy Parasol, is our native species, and that has a very distinct abrupt bulb in the ideal case. But you know, nature is not perfect, and so some people, anybody who eats it loves it because it has a really nice intense taste, but some people get a reaction. We assume mostly to Bruneum, but who exactly knows? And I think that's the reason why they're not in trade, because there's a small set of people that get problems. And here in the city parks and suburban parks, they're all over. So a very common mushroom. Now important is the size of the mushroom. Here this is not fully open, but they can on average maybe 6-8 inches, just 30 feet from here. We had a 12-inch last fall size, cap size. And if you go to small specimens that are these, have that Lepiota look. So this used to be Lepiota, then it turned into Macrolepiota, now it's Chlorophyllum. And if you go to the smaller Lepiotas, there's deadly ones. So never pick any of these guys, let's say below 4 inches, unless you really know what you're doing.
I noticed when you picked it up, you pulled the whole mushroom up with the base of it. Is there a reason why you do that?
Oh, I have the habit because usually I take the base with me and plant it somewhere else. So that's an easy way to move a mushroom. These saprophytic mushrooms that decompose mass and are not tree associated, you just put that base somewhere else, and that's the easiest way to have them grow somewhere else. So I spread one of my favorite edibles that way, you know.
Is that why you have so many species in your yard?
Well, some of them show up definitely that way, but often there can be quite a delay, and you know, being 15, 18 years in the same spot, it's getting better and better each year.
So, but you were talking about telling that from an Amanita,
yeah,
deadly ones, and you have the base there. Is there a difference in the base of the mushroom?
Yeah, the Amanita, when fresh, has a vulva, has a vase base, where there's some tissue that grows over the base and is around the stem from an egg when it's very young, from a cover of the whole thing, the universal veil. And these mushrooms don't have a universal veil. So, and the cap of the deadly Amanitas, it's also a smooth cap. Well, some of them. Others do have spots on there, but the spots can wash off. And when young, we call this the drumsticks. So just like drumsticks, round heads, not elongated like the Shaggy Parasol, round. But if you want to pick mushrooms before they show you all their characteristics, you got to know your mushrooms very well. And right over here we have a relative, the Leucocoprinus, so also close to a Lepiota, and you see the same scaly cap, darker center, and up there comes a little slug with it. So if you don't really see the dimension of these mushrooms, they're very similar. And in this class, in this size class of little Lepiotas, we have some deadly ones that have the same toxins as the death cap. And that apparently they got their Amanita toxins through lateral gene exchange, which means somehow they just picked up the genes and produced their own deadly toxins. And now this guy here itself is not one of the little deadly Lepiotas, but unless you study mushrooms, it is very similar to the deadly little Lepiotas.
What are all the white threads at the bottom of that?
Oh, that's the mycelium. So this is another decomposer, and so wherever the mushroom is in the ground, there's lots of mycelium. This is the body of the mushroom. This is the reproductive organ. So the mycelium will spread far and wide, and you could call that the tree, and what you're looking at is the apple. So picking the apple does not really hurt the mycelium, though the mycelium wants to reproduce, and therefore it produces these so-called fruiting bodies. Okay, here we got the Mica Caps, and the Mica Caps, well, they're known as Mica Caps because they have these fine little crystals on the cap, and these crystals are often washed off and we don't get to see them. So as soon as something touches that or a raindrop hits, they're washed off. So tomorrow they're all gone. And these are Inky Caps. So these are some of the liquefying mushrooms. When I'll take this one from right over here, you see how it all turns black and the spore mass gets nearly liquid and then keeps going liquefying, and that's how they spread their spores. These fruit all year round if there's enough moisture. So in spring and April they're out, and now they're out, and they're the first ones when there is some rain, and since they're wood decayers and wood really holds the moisture very nice, they're all over many parts of the year, and they're quite all right edibles too. If you have the mica on the cap, it really helps to identify them, but otherwise definitely not one of the easiest mushrooms, but something you can learn fairly easy, and you won't have much competition because they're small and fragile and a little tedious to pick, but they come in good amounts. Oh, here we have a nicely liquefied, oh, look at up, I shouldn't do that, the perfect cap. There's all these liquefied, there we go, look at that. So that's a mature mushroom that has all its spores are mature and offered in that slime here.
That's very appetizing.
Yeah, so that's probably when the slime, no, even the slime mold likes the firm version, I think. That's when reproduction was successful. Well, no, not even. Let's forget about that. Okay.